Inter Miami have beaten Atletico Nacional 2-1 in their second preseason game of their South American tour. And they did look a lot better in this game than they did in their first game, although their two goals were a little bit fluky, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I do think there was a lot of improvement in this game. And we'll start off with the first half and what I saw and I thought looked good and bad for Inter Miami. But before we get into that, make sure you guys like this video down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are 250 subscribers away from 12,000. And with your help, I know we'll reach it. So make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos. So let's go ahead and get into the first half of this match between Inter Miami and Atletico Nacional. So in the first half, they looked a lot better than they did in their first game in this preseason tour. Now, I thought that the back line looked much better in the first half. In my opinion, they looked a lot better in the first half. I thought Facundo Mora was the best player in the back line, continuing from his first game, which is what you would want to see with Inter Miami because they weren't content with Chelo Wingett last year in 2025. And Ian Frey did play pretty well at right back, but they don't, I guess, see him as a starting right back, and he's been playing center back throughout the preseason. So I doubt he's going to start at right back at any point in this 2026 season. But Facundo Mora, you just see the speed, a lot more confidence. I thought he was defending well, and I thought he looked really good in the attack. Huge upgrade, I think. And talk about Rodrigo de Paul. Rodrigo de Paul, I think, has been probably the second best player for Inter Miami in this preseason so far. Now, it is only 2 games, but I do think he has been very, very good in this preseason. And I think it's because he's playing more in his natural position. I think with Sergio Busquets last season, he was kind of having to play a little bit more, like more an advanced role. And I just don't think that really suits his position. We even saw him playing as a 10 last year. We saw him playing as a right midfielder. I think being that box to box destroyer suits him obviously a lot better. And I think he's looked really good in the first 2 games. I thought he looked really good in tonight's match as well, playing next to David Ayala. Now, in this game, in the first half especially, Inter Miami were playing a 4-4-2 when they were in the defense, but in the attack, they looked like they were playing more of that 4-3-3 in the attack. So they were shifting formations depending on if they had possession or if they didn't. That's a little interesting. I do think once they get all their pieces though in intact, that they're going to be more of a 4-3-3 team. But we did see them kind of do like a hybrid formation, depending on if they had possession or not. And I think you had to do that, especially with Luis Suarez, to cover more ground because obviously him and Messi aren't going to be able to run like they were able to in their younger days. So if you have your third guy, Salvetti or Segovia, playing that far up, it's obviously going to cause issues because they're going to have to backtrack so much, and Suarez and Messi aren't going to run back to defend. So that's why I think they did this, where they shifted to the 4-4-2, so it gives them a little bit more breathing room in the defense. But I thought Salvetti looked pretty good too. He was on the right side tonight. I thought he looked a lot better in this game than he did the first game. In the first half, I thought he looked a lot better. He looked more comfortable. He did look a little fatigued in some moments. He looked a little exhausted. There was one point where he had his hands on his knees and looked like he was not gasping for air, but he looked like he was just really worn out. So I think he's still trying to get his legs under him. I thought David Ayala looked really comfortable. I think he's going to be very good for Inter Miami in 2026. Segovia looked okay in the first half. I thought, I don't think he was bad or anything, but it's just, Segovia is going to be a role player in 2026. He's not going to be a starter. He's going to be a guy that they're going to rely on if somebody gets hurt, right? That's what he's going to be. He's going to be a depth piece, someone that they're going to need in the long stretch of the season or when someone's missing for injury, but he's not going to be a starter in 2020 and 2026. Now, Messi, I thought looked really good too. He looked really lively tonight. He looked very motivated, right? Like you could just see he had that like extra spark. Not to say Messi doesn't always play with that, but tonight it just felt like he was really playing with an extra edge to him. He was chasing the ball. He was locked in. He had a couple key passes. He had a beautiful pass to Luis Suarez in the first half, and Luis Suarez fell down, in Luis Suarez La Tortuga fashion, which was really funny and sad at the same time, right? It's almost elder abuse. But I thought the team looked pretty good in the first half overall. I thought that they looked a lot better in this game than they did in the first half or in the entire first game in their first preseason match. I thought they looked a lot better in the first half. Now, moving on to the second half. It was 0-0 at halftime, right? Or actually, it was 1-0 because Atletico Nacional scored that absolute banger in the 26th minute. Excuse me. They scored that banger. That was the one mishap in the first half. But that was just, I mean, that was just a crazy good goal by Atletico Nacional. There was nothing Dane St. Clair was going to do about that to save that. But so they go down 1-0 at the half to Atletico Nacional. The second half, Messi has the shot. It bounces off the left post, our left post, and Luis Suarez is able to tap it in and score to tie the game up in the 55th minute. And Luis Suarez, I mean, that is the most Luis Suarez goal you could possibly think of at this point, with his obviously diminishing ability, right? Because he is getting a lot older. Still surprised he's even playing at this point. I mean, it's all like I said, it's honestly sad that he's still playing, but we know he's not going to be the starter, right? They just bought a striker, which we'll talk about in a second, and he's going to be the starting striker for this team. So Luis Suarez is just going to be a depth piece for Inter Miami. And I doubt he's going to play that much in 2026, only when they need him, right? But he's able to score and tie the game up in the 55th minute. And then he gets taken out in the 59th minute, and so does David Ayala. And we get to see Herman Berterame. Now, this is a big signing for Inter Miami, and people, I honestly didn't think we were going to see him until the third match. I had a text this morning from a friend that said, "Hey, rumors are saying that Berterame might play tonight." That's what I heard. He said, I didn't believe it, but that's what I was told. And I was like, man, that would be crazy. He was just announced yesterday. That would be surprising to see him play already, but here we are. And he played. He came on the 59th minute for Luis Suarez, and I thought he looked pretty good. Now, there was one mishap he had we'll talk about in a little bit, but I thought he looked lively. I thought him and Messi already kind of looked like they had a connection forming, which I know some of you are going to be like, man, how would they have a connection forming? They've only played what, 20 minutes together. How would they have a connection? But when you have quality, right? When you have players that are good, you can just kind of see that they have this instant connection where they can kind of read each other's mind and know what runs to make and what plays to do and what to do off the ball, what to do on the ball. So I felt like we kind of seen that a little bit, and we saw the how lethal Berterame can be once he starts playing in the starting 11 full time and what they'll be able to do with him. So we saw a couple good runs, and it just looked like the attack was way more polished when he was in the game because, you know, Luis Suarez obviously can't run like he used to. And Berterame is, I think he's 11 years younger than Luis Suarez, 11 years younger. So he can obviously do a lot more running. Now, is he a world burner? Is he fast? I don't think he's the fastest guy on the team, but he's a lot faster than any other option they have up top at this point. And I think that's going to make a difference going forward. And you could just see the attack. And he had this nice layoff to Salvetti, and Salvetti wasn't able to score, but you could just tell they had this, it's like an instant chemistry in the team. It just looked a lot more fluid. It looked a lot more lethal in the final third. I thought it did. And, the back line, like I said, really wasn't tested. The second half, Atletico really, they made like wholesale changes. They substituted their entire, maybe not their entire starting 11, but damn near their entire starting 11. And I'm assuming most of these guys were their backups that they brought in the second half. So you also have to take that in consideration when talking about this, who they're going against. But, the MLS or Inter Miami is in preseason. So obviously they're not going to be at their sharpest point, and they're going to have to transition back into form, right? It's going to take a couple games. So even if it is backups, you still have to get your minutes. You still have to, knock the rust off. So that really doesn't bother me too much. At least they're looking better, right? If you're an Inter Miami fan. The back line really wasn't challenged much in the second half either. I just, other than one play, and I want to talk about this with Berterame. Berterame towards the end of the game, because Inter Miami had an own goal. Rivero did for Atletico Nacional. I think it was Morales who had the ball, and then he took it away from him and scored an own goal for against Atletico Nacional to put Inter Miami up 2-1. Then Berterame, he had this horrible pass that he passed backwards. I mean, he passed it to you would have thought he was playing for Nacional. Like it was like an absolute deep ball in transition. Like, I don't know what he was thinking, but my God, he should have, if the guy had scored for Atletico Nacional, Berterame deserved an assist for how bad that pass was. Like, I mean, that was it almost looked intentional, like that he was trying to throw the game away. So that's like my one negative about him in this game was that pass at the end of the game. I don't know what the hell he was thinking, but I mean, he absolutely put it on a platter for Atletico Nacional on that pass. I don't know what, Yeah, it was just really, really weird. I don't know. And if they had scored that, would have, the guy probably should have scored that. Some might have thought it was a penalty on St. Clair. I don't think it was, but it was too risky and dangerous. I don't know what he was doing, but he's going to have to be better and take care of the ball a little better than that if they want to win going forward, especially if in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But overall, I thought this was a better performance by Inter Miami, much better than the first game where they lost 3-0. There are a lot of people clowning Inter Miami after that, which, you can't really take preseason. You can't ride the highs too high and the lows too low. You have to have a balanced opinion and know that this is preseason. This is a friendlies. But it did look a lot better tonight than they did in the first match. And that's if you're an Inter Miami fan, you're hoping from here on out, each game progressively gets better. They look better. They're more informed. The chemistry's better because they had a lot of turnover, a lot of guys that are playing tonight. And Mikael Dos Santos, the Palmeiras Loney, the former Dynamo center back, came on. I didn't really notice him too much. He wasn't really tested, but you want to see all these guys just gain chemistry with each other and play better in each passing game. And I think that they look better in game two. I'd be curious what you guys think, who you thought the player of the match was. I think it was Messi, obviously, or DePaul, or was my man of the match. Curious who you think. And do you guys think this was a huge improvement from game one to game two? Like I do. Their next game is against Barcelona SC, not FC, the Ecuadorian Barcelona. And that is February the 7th. That is, I think, their final. Maybe they have one more game after that in their South American tour. But that's their next game. We'll see how they do that in that match. I'm assuming Berterame will start, so we'll get to see a full, maybe not 90 minutes, but we'll get to see the first 60 minutes of him starting with the ideal starting 11. And hey, MLS regular season is right around the corner. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Are you worried about Inter Miami or are you optimistic? Let me know. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure you give it a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.